Alright then. I really do need to fix that at some point. Eh. It'll be what it'll be. Alright. So, one of today's voice acting scripts is Ironweed by William Kennedy. Riding up the winding road of St. Agnes Cemetery in the back of a rattling old truck, Francis Fillon became aware that the dead, even more than the living, settled down in neighborhoods. The truck was suddenly surrounded by a field of monuments and cenotaphs of kindred design and striking size, all guarding the privileged dead. But the truck moved on, and the limits of mere privilege became visible, for here now came the acres of truly prestigious death, captains of life without diamonds, furs, carriages, and limousines, but buried in pomp and glory, vaulted in great tombs, built like heavenly safety deposit boxes, or parts of the Acropolis, and, yes, here too, inevitably, came the flowing masses, row upon row of them under simple headstones and crosses. Here was the neighborhood of the Fillons. Francis's mother twitched nervously in her grave as the truck carried him nearer to her, and Francis's father lit his pipe, smiled at his wife's discomfort, and looked out from his own bit of sod to catch a glimpse of how much his son had changed since the train accident. Alrighty then. Hello, hello, hello. It's an odd one. Jewels, a short history. In the ancient Shattered Gorge of Somerset in England, there is a huge cavern. Since it was first discovered more than a century ago, it has yielded many rare artifacts and bones from the ancient past, including even a complete seated skeleton, 9,000 years old. But in 1950, this place named Gow's Cave, after the Victorian sea captain who found it, also yielded what was perhaps the oldest piece of traded gem-type material ever discovered. It is dark red and rather dirty, like a scuffed piece of translucent toffee, and it is almost the size of a dozen credit cards stacked together. It is a piece of amber, and it was traded at least 12,500 years ago. It looks an unlikely treasure, but treasure it is because it is possibly the first indication we have today of a human fascination with amber that has lasted since prehistoric times. At the time of discovery, there was no way to ascertain where the amber in Gove's cave had come from, whether from Britain, from some rare pieces of native amber had been found on the Isle of Wight, or farther afield. However, 14 years later, a professor at a Vassal college in New York came up with the answer. Using dental equipment designed for tooth fillings, he ground up a tiny fragment of the amber, and then observed how it absorbed infrared light. He determined that it was of Baltic origin, and was therefore around 40 million years old. Hello, hello, hello. More and more odd readings from here. It's a big one. Job and career change. Start with yourself. 10 key strategies for success. Over the past 20 years, as technology grew at a rapid pace to give us the internet, smartphones, and instant connectivity, the resulting changes have forced us to re-examine our personal and professional lives, our goals, and our careers. And as early as March 2002, a Wall Street Journal article described several manufacturers adopting an approach of continual cross-training and moving workers based on the needs of the company. Employees in those situations may have some amount of employment security, but since they are paid a different wage based on the job they do, this kind of transfer can seriously impact their finances, their day-to-day sense of security and well-being, and the traditional concept of moving up the career ladder. More and more it becomes evident that although people used to change jobs every 7 to 10 years, Now they change entire careers with the same or greater frequency. With our rapid technological advances, entire careers pop up or go away within a decade. Clearly, the days of working for the same employer for 30 to 40 years and then retiring are long gone. In this age of being free agents, it's even more important for us to continually upgrade our skills since, ultimately, we are the ones responsible for managing our careers. This may mean that we're continually looking for the next thing, or plotting what our next upward or sideways move will be. Fortunately, or unfortunately, many of the old rules are gone. Today we have a world economy. We are no longer isolated in our commerce. All kinds of jobs have moved overseas, shifting to areas where the cost of labor is less. And it's across the board. Manufacturing, development, even customer service has been affected. With the tanking of the economy in the past several years, many people are now finding that they have to take jobs that are outside of their normal career path, and sometimes at lower salaries than they're used to. And in some ways, that means they're lucky, because at least they have a job. But even if this describes your current situation, it doesn't mean you are stuck there forever. This series of books are designed to help you plan where to go from here. These books are not about how to write a resume, or even how to interview for a job. There are several really good books already out there that give you specialized information in these areas. However, as you go through the 10 strategies, you'll complete several different processes to gather information that will help you when you do write your resume, or get called in for an interview. Plus, you'll find several other resources to assist with the more traditional aspects of your job, search, or career change. Being downsized or laid off is not always a tragedy. It certainly gives you an opportunity to reevaluate where you are at this moment. Sometimes you can take advantage of this kind of shift, expanding it to be more into a career that is even more meaningful for you. It's all up to you and what you want to make of it. The 10 strategies that make up the series are what you need to start with. They'll help you figure out what's really next for you. Regardless of where you've been, the future is wide open. And regardless of what might seem like right now, you're the one who gets to choose. Alrighty. Not quite the most entertaining of ones. So let's have one last one by Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton. The velociraptor sniffed. It jerked its head and looked right at Tim. Tim nearly gasped with fright. Tim's body was rigid, tense. He watched as the reptile eye moved, scanning the room. Another sniff. He's got me, Tim thought. Then the head jerked back to look forward, and the animal went on, toward the 5th stake. Tim thought, Lex, please don't move, please don't move. Whatever you do, please don't. The velociraptor sniffed the steak and moved on. It was now at the open door to the freezer. Tim could see the smoke billowing out, curling along the floor towards the animal's feet. One big clawed foot lifted, then came down again, silently. The dinosaur hesitated. Too cold, Tim thought. Alrighty. They're getting a bit more odd and obscure with some of the things they do. There we are. Alright. So, a bit of a... Maybe I can pop it up for you guys. I've been working at trying to get a new UI going, but I don't think I'm actually going to be able to use it at the resolution I'm uploading at. I believe I'm uploading at 40 resolution, and then my Restream client is up, enlarging it, so it can be seen as other things, like 1080, 720, whatever. But yeah, here I'll pull up an example. I'm still working on it. Let's see. Alright. I'm still working on it. It's not a picture, it's a collage of sorts. Let's see here. But here's what I'm aiming at and looking for. If you guys can see that. I figured it'd be kind of neat to have right there, that green will be where the screen is, and then just have different characters from the stories you've read just filling up the sides, and then maybe like the center spot would be the camera and chat instead, and the characters just go down the side. Still working at it, still finding them. Yep, she doesn't look all too pleased. Yeah, how could I do something like this without an Umineko reference, or especially Beato, maybe even Battler? I'm still trying to figure out, because I don't know. I could put more in of other stories I've read or would like to read, but the ones I'm currently reading, like Umineko, it's hard for me to look through them without finding spoiler stuff, so I'm trying to steer away from that for now until I've read it or something. I don't know. But that's what I'm working towards. But my issue I have, this picture I've got is in like 1080 resolution with a 720 picture in the center. I can't stream at that, and doing this at 40 resolution would be a tiny little something or other. I could still try it, but might as well give it a shot when I get it all figured out. Oop. There we are. Anywho, that's what I'm working on, trying to find interesting ones. If you guys got like characters you'd like to see up there, let me know. I picked some that looked interesting and kind of fit around there, or that I thought were interesting characters and the like. Anywho, that's what I've been working on. It's actually been kind of fun. So, we still got 4 whole entire episodes of Umineko. Alright, and where were we? We last left off with the Burn Castle saying in red that Natsuki was imagining Beatrice in the Rose Garden. And that the Battler was fighting to do it nicely, kill her nicely, not completely destroy her everywhere, or some such. And that the siblings were catching on to the fact that Kinzo was not alive, and were plotting different ways to bring it up and confront them about it, so that they can steal a bit of money. Maybe steal's not the right word. Acquire money from the deal. And so, I think we left off right as they were the new scene. This time it's with Natsuki. Alright, and it kind of sucks to be her right now. But we'll weather it on and keep going. And oh yeah, and the big important thing from last time was her hair's funny looking, so she might be hiding a gun in there or something. That was definitely an important piece that we discussed and talked about. Anywho, the weather wasn't that great. According to the weekend forecast, a certain tropical cyclone would likely grow into a large typhoon. If unhappy, premonitions tend to be right. This year's family conference will probably take place in absolutely horrible weather. No, I wish a typhoon large enough to stop all boat travel would seal Rakanjima away forever. If that happened, I'd be able to hide Kinzo's death as long as I wanted. Be careful what you wish for. If only the typhoon would keep them at bay forever. Natsuki let out a deep sigh. Just doing that made her headache throb. As the day of the family conference approached, the intensity of her headache just kept on increasing. At that time, the phone rang. Natsuki turned the TV off and picked up the receiver. Hello? I apologize for calling during your rest. Genji? It is Genji.
何事ですか?
Is something the matter? He's got his last name there. There's a phone call for you from the external line. However, they will not state their name.
名乗らない?
They aren't saying their name? Yes. The person in question said you would know when you spoke with them. What should be done? It might be a prank.
どんな相手です?
What did they sound like? I believe it was a young man. Any idea who it might be?
若い
A young
男性?
man? Natsuhi didn't have a clue who that might be. In the first place, there was no one amongst her acquaintances who would do something as rude as refusing to state their name. And on top of that, a young man? As a wife, she must avoid any contact that might be considered suspicious with anyone other than her husband, much less a young man. As soon as she thought this, the phone call suddenly seemed like something dirty. But despite that, she also wanted to know what they wanted to tell her. Could it be some kind of trouble related to Krause's business? What if there was some particular reason they needed to talk to Krause's wife instead of Krause directly? No matter what it is, it's my duty as a wife to listen and report to Krause. If it's some bizarre threat, I just have to firmly refuse and inform Krause that I received such a phone call. If it's something offensive, I just have to tell Genji to never send me an anonymous call again. As Natsuhi thought this, just as Genji was suggesting that he hang up on the man, so that's what she'd naturally choose, she told him to connect her to this person. She then set the receiver down. After a short while, the phone rang again.
もしもし?
Hello? This wasn't the internal line. It was the external phone line, which Genji had redirected her to. So it should already have been connected directly with the mysterious man. However, the person on the other end didn't respond. Not liking this at all, Natsuhi spoke one more time, sounding displeased.
もしもし?
Hello?
誰ですか?
Who is this?
名を名乗りなさい.
Tell me your name. She heard something that sounded like a sigh. She gulped reflectively. After remaining silent for a little longer, the man finally answered. It's been a long time, huh? That was the first time the man had spoken. Just how long has it been? How many years?
何の話です?
What are you talking about?
あなたは誰です
Who
か?
are you? The voice certainly did sound like a young man's, but it's hard to learn much about someone just by their voice over the phone. It sounded like a young man, but it might actually be a middle school-aged boy, or a man in his prime who still had a youngish voice. No, wait, it might be too soon to be sure this is even a male. However, one thing was certain. Natsuhi could think of no one who would speak to her in an overly familiar manner like this. It'd be easy for me to tell you my name, but that would make me very sad. I don't know what you're talking about. Who are you? And what business do you have with me? If you can't tell me that, I'm not interested. I'm hanging up. What I want is for you to remember. And what is it that you're telling me to remember? I don't know you, so I have nothing to remember. Please do not say that. I am your child, am I not? What did you say? What are you talking about? Do not say things that will make me so sad, Mother. That unsettling word thrust itself mercilessly into the depths of Natsuhi's heart and started churning it about. In her entire life, Natsuhi had never been told something so unsettling. In her bewilderment, Natsuhi felt her heart beat so loudly that it felt like it would explode. I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't know what you're playing, but I'm hanging up. I came back for revenge. Revenge for your crime of 19 years ago. Natsuhi's mind went blank, and from beyond the wind howling outside the window, she most certainly heard the roar of the sea from that day. So, you actually do remember, do you not? I told you I don't know what you're talking about. Do never call here again. I have not forgotten how you treated me 19 years ago. To curse you, I still call you mother despite that. No, because of that. The family conference will be here very soon, right? I am your son, mother. I will come on the day of the conference, after 19 years, so that I can have my revenge on you. Click. Breathing so hard her shoulders heaved, Natsuhi slammed the receiver down and hung up. Then she hit the phone violently, knocking the receiver off, so that no more calls would come through it. I can hear the roar of the sea. That voice I hear from beyond the howling winds is certainly... even if I cover my ears, the headache won't... Completely pale, Natsuhi kept shivering as though cold. Lambda, are you there? Yes, I'm here. I'm anywhere you want me to be, Bern. Then crawl into the cupboard under the kitchen floor, or in a jar of rice bran paste if you like. Oh, you're gonna dip me in bee paste and bite into me? But then I'd rather you dip me in honey. In return, I'll cook you in sugar water. At least make it sweet soy sauce with sweet sake. So what's up? You gonna make me repeat something? That's right. Is Natsuhi's phone conversation here real? Lambda Delta grinned unpleasantly, as though sizing Burncastle up. Unexpected indeed. She was probably trying to tease Burn for making that demand. You refused to repeat it. Well, now, should I refuse or should I respond? As the game master, that's up for me to decide, and I get to make that decision anytime I want. Unless I state it in blue, you aren't obligated to respond. That's it. For now, you're stuck wondering about Natsuhi's secret of 19 years ago, okay? Make sure you're sitting on the edge of your seat. Of course, this fishy telephone call happened before October 4th, 1986. This is still before the start time of the game. So there's basically no need to question whether it's true or false. Since you, the Game Master, went out of your way to show me this, I'll take it as a preparatory move for something else. It might be a trick, but I'll at least keep this move of yours in my memory. So, you'll leave without turning the card over. Ouch. Direct attack. After suddenly being conked on the head, Lambda Delta was bewildered. But perhaps this incomprehensible exchange was funny to her, because she quickly went back to giggling. Are you done preparing the game board now? Yeah, that's right. Now I'll finally move on to the game. On to October 4th, 1986. I wonder what number October 4th, 1986 this is. The Endless Witch, huh? Beatrice. She truly is a frightening child. Any moves from your side yet, Burn? No. If you refuse to repeat what I asked, then I'm done. Turn end, right? Untap, unkeep, draw. Come. October 4th, 1986. Umineko no Nakukoro ni Chiru, Nocturne of Truths and Illusions. 10 o'clock? Oh, I guess that's AM, huh? Oh, bear with me. Forgot to put up my sound curtain. Need just a little bit more space in this area. This guy. Hey, Doodles up. That guy. Welcome. Welcome to the show. This rose garden really is a masterpiece. It's gotten even more awesome than it was 6 years ago. You're so lucky to have this as your yard. Are you kidding? For me, it just makes it a longer walk to the harbor. It's a real pain. That's a pretty luxurious worry. Oh, getting to say hi to roses every morning must be awesome. You must get late after saying hi to so many roses. Shame about Angie, though. Yeah, I hear her stomach gets upset easily, right? Apparently. It's probably her intestines that are weak. She's almost always got the runs. Oh, you shouldn't say something like that about a lady. Sorry about that. Yeah, I forgot. Nothing comes out of a girl's butt but marshmallows, right? So, Angie got sick, and the marshmallows turned into syrup. Okay, that's really way over the line. George and Jessica slammed a knee and a fist into either side of Butler's gut. Whack, smack, thud. The smack thud was probably the sound made when his knees hit the ground as he fell over. But my not-so-new job's actually doing okay. Repair guy at Radio Shack turned out alright. I'm like the only repair guy for miles, so people bring me in the weirdest things. I'm currently working on a CB radio to try and solder connections onto it at some point. I've never done that before. But it's alright. Hours are pretty good. Normally, Ballard possessed the good sense you'd expect of an 18-year-old man. However, it seemed that this reunion had brought him back to the mental age he'd been 6 years ago. And, bit by bit, Jessica and George realized they were also returning to the way they'd been back then. Natsuhi gazed at this charming chat through an open window in the hall. Madame, Kraus-sama is searching for you. I'll go in just a bit. It isn't even lunchtime yet, and I'm already tired. Just a few moments ago, the sparks had already started flying between them and Eva's group. The others had pounded on Kraus and Natsuhi over and over to get Kinzo out of his study. Apparently, they hadn't been fully tricked at last year's family conference after all. There are no problems with father, right? Correct. Leave it to me. Shannon and Cannon are also fully prepared to handle today's arrangements. Kumasawa's a good liar, so I'm not worried about her. But I am a little concerned about Dr. Nanjo. I get the feeling he's bad at hiding things. Leave that to me. I intend to support Dr. Nanjo from nearby as much as possible. It's so reassuring to have you there. It really does help a lot. Without your strength, we wouldn't be able to succeed. I am honored by your words. Don't worry. The closed room barrier on the study is perfect. As long as the barrier remains unbroken, no one will be able to expose Ginzo's secret. Yes, I understand. Still, you heard that conversation in the parlor just now, didn't you? Indeed. It seems that some considerable suspicions were aroused last year. The terrible toxin has accumulated and is being spread all around. It seems this year's conference really will be crucial. We might be able to overcome this year somehow, but there is such a thing as pushing our luck. It's probably best to assume that next year won't be manageable. With this much of the magic-resisting toxin filling up the place, it will probably be difficult to preserve Lord Goldsmith's magic for yet another family conference. Who are you? Oh. Oh, no need to be surprised. This man serves as my head furniture. Greetings, Madame Natsuhi. My name is Ronove. Hey, hey. It is a pleasure to meet you. This man's reliable. He's also helping to protect the closed room barrier. Is that so? I am Ushiromiya Natsuhi. I thank you for your cooperation. Of course, Madame. I will be aiding you from the magic world. Please rely on me. And Genji's just standing right there as this is happening, right? In that case, I guess I'll introduce myself next. Hi, Riche. Long time no see. Ah, Gap! I'm glad to see you here as well. Well, I only came to have some fun. If you need an extra hand, let me know. Nice to meet you, Madame. This is the first time I've said hello, but I'm always right by anyone's side. The Gap here is quite the prankster. Remember that headache medicine you dropped on the floor of your room and lost as you were getting dressed? Gap was the one behind that. Whenever you set something small down somewhere but can't find it later, it's always a good idea to suspect that it's one of her pranks. Long ago, she used to tease me all the time. Is that so? In any event, this is the Ushiromiya mansion. As long as you're here, you will obey us. You understand, correct? Of course. We understand. Think of me as Genji of the magic world, and give me orders whenever you wish. And even I know how a guest is supposed to act. I won't let the landlord lose face. You can count on Ronove and Gap. However, the magic world and the human world are two different sides of the same coin. Hello, hello. I understand. Of course, I will do all I can in the human world. Let's work together and protect Father's secret. Ronove makes an entrance. He does in this one, and you just... here he is. I understand. Of course, I will do all I can in the human world. Let's work together and protect Father's secret. Indeed. I find it kind of odd that they use indeed to translate. Yeah, it works, but kind of. This happens every time. Looks like we won't get anywhere until the next day. Well, sure. October 4th is like a prep term for me. If you don't feel like doing anything, why don't you just sit around until October 5th? I'll call you after the first 6 die. Of course, that was an incredibly irritating way to put it. The fight won't start until the crime occurs. However, waiting for the crimes to start would mean turning a blind eye towards the murders of the first twilight. In other words, it would be the same as being content with the fact that 6 people would die. Did you know? They say that in chess, the player who is first is twice as likely to win. Although that could change as the tactics of the match progress. Don't they say the second player has a much better chance at a draw? Yeah, figured I might as well give it a shot. Even I know the phrase, the first to strike wins. So, what are you trying to say? This is why you're so incompetent. Seriously. Are you listening, Battler? There do exist puzzles that can be solved even on October 4th. Know which one I mean? You don't mean... No, but... Well, watch and see, Battler the Incompetent. Yeah, I've been told when I first started that I might be decent at ASMR, and I figured, why the hell not? Let's give it a shot, see what happens. I'll change it back if nothing happens, or it's not like just chatting section means much different. Oh. Anyway, let's see. I have a general idea what these witches are talking about. I've tried solving it several times myself in the past, but I still haven't found anything resembling an answer. On the contrary, I still can't even understand why that puzzle exists. If you got any other suggestions for rooms I can be in, feel free to shout them out. That's right. The reason it exists. Why did Beato prepare a puzzle like this in the first place? We all discussed it together from time to time in past games. However, I've started to avoid thinking about it, under the assumption that there's no point in trying to solve a riddle that can't be solved. This time, I should change my viewpoint. I shouldn't just focus on the surface level stuff, like the truth of the riddle and how to solve it. What's more important is why that riddle was set up in the first place and displayed for us to see. That's what I should be thinking about. And the one proposing that riddle is Beatrice. Even if I can't solve it, I should be able to try and figure out what Beata was thinking when she showed it to us. Okay, this time, I'm spinning the chessboard around. The witches keep calling me incompetent. Let them laugh. They aren't my enemies. I'm continuing our match. Beato. I've got a theory on what's going on, but again, I've been pretty shoddy with my aim so far. I want to see if it's right before I say it. Oh? Looks like it's finally started to rain. Dang. Wish the only downpour was the one inside my heart. The people in the parlor noticed the raindrops that were starting to drip down the window. Now, we have nowhere to run until the family conference ends. The same thing goes for Nissan. I won't let them escape. You can be sure of that. The cards we're holding aren't bad. Nissan's just bluffing. I'll make certain he surrenders. Well, there's more to deal than making your opponent lose. You've got to get a pitfall ready. Praise them a bit and convince them to stand on it of their own accord. Hideyoshi-san's right. We pressed them a bit too hard last time, even Nei-san. That was perfectly reasonable, considering it's Nissan we're dealing with. Looks like Rosa's fallen asleep. She was complaining about how early she woke up this morning. Well, I guess there's nothing wrong with taking a nap. There's a chance we might be forced to spend all night on this. Getting a nap in now is probably a smart idea. Out of consideration for Rosa, who'd fallen asleep on the sofa, the others quietly left the parlor. Unaware of this, Rosa slept. After telling Maria to just stay where she was after that tantrum over not being able to find her rose, Rosa slept, unaware that the rain had started to fall. Right. That happened. The rain poured down as though it had been saving up for this moment. Of course, Maria noticed that the rain had started falling and was soaking her to the bone. However, that just made her even more stubborn. Unable to find the poor, slightly unhealthy rose that she herself had marked, She just couldn't stand having that search be interrupted by something like the rain. So the more the rain fell on Maria, the more stubborn she grew. As she wandered through the rose beds, and as she did, from behind Maria's back came a patter, patter, the sound of approaching footsteps. Then the footsteps landed in a puddle, making a small splashing sound, and Maria finally heard. However, even the slight distraction of that sound irritated her, and Maria ignored it.
Konnichiwa.
Hello. Maria turned around, bewildered. After all, that voice was one she didn't recognize at all. On this sealed-off Rakunjima, that voice belonged to no person she knew. Kraus-sama, madam, I was looking for you. Something important has come up. Kraus and Natsui had been privately discussing what should be done next in a deserted corridor on the third floor. Genji had searched everywhere for them. What is it? It must be something more urgent than a few sheets getting soaked in the rain. What is it? Has some sort of blunder been made? A short while ago, someone arrived at the mansion, claiming to have drifted here after an accident at sea. Kraus and Natsui couldn't help but go wide-eyed and stare at each other. This was the first time they'd ever heard of someone coming to this island uninvited. Someone drifted here? Is that true? Poor thing. Treat this person politely, like a guest. What are they doing now? Dr. Nanjo is performing an examination. He hasn't finished yet, but from what I could tell by looking, the drifter seemed tired, but uninjured. Thank goodness. Natsui and I are having an important conversation right now. When it's over, we will go check on this person. Please tell this drifter that we want them to feel at home. Certainly. When Genji bowed deeply and started to leave, Natsui called him to a stop. Genji stopped walking, and Natsuhi jogged up to him. Genji, is this drifter a man? No. She is a young woman, about the same age as my lady. A woman? I see. Very well. Back to your work. The parlor of the mansion was bustling. The adults gathered, worrying about the health of the sudden guests. Well, if she is able to walk all the way to the rose garden by herself, her life probably isn't in danger. It always helps to be prepared. It's probably all thanks to the life jacket. Without that, she might have drowned. What kind of girl was she? Older or younger than George? Or Jessica? She was younger than Jessica. She wore a life jacket and swimsuit. It looked like she was all tired out. If she washed up somewhere near the harbor, that must have been a rare bit of luck amidst disaster. It would have been terrible if she'd landed on the opposite side of the island. Still, you have to feel sorry for her. In this weather, the boats won't be coming. I imagine she'll also be stuck on this island all day tomorrow. At that moment, the door clunked open, and everyone looked in that direction. Would anyone like some tea? It was Goda and Cannon, with the latter pushing a serving cart laden with a tea set. Goda understood well that doing a little extra at times like this would earn him points. Ambitious Goda. The relatives, hungry for information, crowded around Goda. He ordered Cannon to serve the tea and became the sole object of the relatives' attention. Goda-san, how's that kid doing? Does it look like she's okay? Well, I don't know about that. But there's no need to worry. Dr. Nanjo is giving his full attention to taking care of her, and Kumasawa and Shannon are with him. Please,
ご安心くだ
have
さい
no fears.
まずは紅茶でお
Why
くつ
not
ろぎに
relax
なっ
with
て
some
はい
black
かが
tea
です
for
か
now?
さあカ
Come,
ノンさん
Ganon-san.
早く早く
Quickly,
配って
quickly.
配って
Serve it, serve it.
たく
Grumble.
で僕が
Ganon threw his newest Canon knew this tea was just Goda's way of earning points, so he lined the cups up with a slightly sullen air. Ooh, I'll help too.
大丈夫です
It's okay.
マリア様は
You can
その
just
まま
wait
でお
there,
待ちを
Maria-sama. Ooh, I want to serve tea too.
南條先生にはお会いして
Didn't
な
you
いの
talk with Dr. Nanjo?
何か言ってなかった
Did he say anything?
ええ
Yes.
先ほど
When I
お
met
会
him
い
a
しま
short
し
while
たとこ
ago,
ろ
he said that there weren't any serious external wounds.
私もちらり
From
と
what
お
I
見
could tell
か
at
け
a
したと
glance.
ころでは
And, just as Goda had successfully captured the gazes of all present, and was about to start talking knowledgeably about the subject, Nanjo returned. Of course, Nanjo instantly became the center of attention. Canon turned his back on Goda, who seemed downhearted.
南條先生
Dr. Nanjo,
どうなんですか
How is her
容体は
condition?
大丈夫そうな
does it
の
look like she'll be okay?
皆さん
Not to
ご安
worry,
心を
everyone.
大丈夫です
She is fine.
怪我は何もあ
She
りま
had
せん
no
でした
injuries at all.
だいぶ
She
疲労
seems
してい
to
る
be
ようで
quite
す
worn
が
out,
今夜
but
特
there
に
shouldn't be
熱を
anything
出
to
さな
worry
ければ
about tonight,
何事もない
as
で
long
しょ
as she doesn't develop a fever.
ならよかったわ
That's good to hear.
お医者様はいても
We're
病
lucky
院は
enough to
ない
have
も
a
のね
doctor, but this is no hospital. Everyone was relieved to hear that the girl was in good health. When Nanjo gave the more detailed results of his examination, concluding by saying that she was young and should therefore be fine, everyone who no longer fell under this description nodded in assent. Oh,
やっぱり
boats really are scary.
落ちる
Fall, fall.
バトラの言う
Battler
通
was
りだった
right.
マリアちゃんそれバッ
Maria-chan,
内緒ね
let's not tell Battler-kun about this.
ああ
Oh,
奥様
madam,
旦那様
Cross-sama. Goda, who had lost his nerve and was handing out cups, called out in an excessively loud voice. Apparently, he was that desperate to get everyone's attention.
客人の具合は
Ambitious
どう
Goda.
だね
How is the guest?
はい
Yes, sir.
別状は
Her
ないとの
condition
こ
is
とで
not
ございま
serious.
す
そうですか
I
それ
see.
はよかった
That's great.
今はどちらに
Where is she now?
熊沢さんとシ
I
ャノン
believe
さんがお風呂
Kumasawa-san
に
and
案内したは
Shannon-san
ず
were
だ
guiding her to the bath.
それから服を見
They
立て
said
る
they
と
would
言っ
get
てま
her
した
some
が
clothes afterwards.
ならすぐに来
In
る
that
だ
case, they'll probably arrive here soon.
諸君
Everyone,
親族会議の日
this
では
may
あ
be
る
the day
が
of the family
不
conference,
幸な事故で訪
but we
れ
have
る
a
ことと
guest
なった
brought
場
here
合
by an
だけど
unfortunate accident.
招いた客人ではない
She
が
wasn't invited,
どうか歓迎
but I
し
want
てや
you all
って
to
ほしい
welcome her.
意義などあるわけもない
Who could disagree with that?
賛成や
I'm all for it.
同じくだ
Same here.
女の子には
Didn't Mom always tell us to be nice
お
to
ふくろも言っ
girls?
てたぜ
Of
あな
course
たは
Rudolph
それ
would
を
say
人
that.
生のモットーにしすぎよ
Maybe, but you didn't need to make that your life's motto.
ジョージたちも呼んだ方が
It's
いい
probably best if we call George and the rest over here too.
全員で挨拶し
Let's
ま
all
しょう
greet her together.
そんな
But
かえって恐
wouldn't
縮さ
that
せ
just
ちゃうん
make
じゃ
her
ない
more uncomfortable? Eva stood up and made a phone call to the guest house. At that moment, they heard the sound of a knock, followed by Genji's voice.
源氏でございます
It is
お
Genji.
客様が
The
お
guest
越し
has
になられ
arrived.
ました
At those words, everyone fell silent, and the people who had been sitting stood straight up. Stood up straight. Genji came in first, opening the door slowly, then moved off to the side, bowing deeply and urging the guests forwards. The guests had Shannon and Kumasawa following by her side, and, even after seeing the large number of relatives waiting for her in the parlor, she didn't seem overawed in the slightest. Just this single point showed that this girl possessed a dignity appropriate for a guest invited in by the Ushirimiya family.
古戸様
Fudo,
ご紹介申し上げます
Furudo-sama, allow me to introduce you.
後宮家当主
This is the
代行
representative of the Ushirimiya family head,
後宮クラウスに
Ushirimiya
ございま
Kraus.
す
Welcome to Rokonjima.
事故でいらしたと
Though
はい
you
え
arrived due to an
あ
accident,
なたは当家
you
の
are a
客人
guest
だ
of the family.
歓迎します
We
よ
welcome you.
どうぞ
Please,
当家をし
make
ばしの
yourself
間
at home and
ご
relax
自宅と
however you
思い
please.
存分にくつろがれ
ありがとうございます。
Thank you very much.
自己紹介申し
Allow
上げ
me
ます
to introduce myself.
フルドエリカ
I
と
am
申
called
します。
Fudo Erika.
この度は
My deepest apologies for disturbing you members of the Ushimi family like this.
招かれざる客
I'm
人であ
truly
るにも
grateful
か
for
か
the
わら
warm
ずの
welcome I've
歓迎
received, despite my status as an uninvited guest. This was greeted by an impressed sigh, arising equally from all corners of the room. The clothes she had been lent were probably Jessica's formal wear from long ago. But the composure of her introduction didn't shame those clothes in the slightest. The girl's name was Frudo Erika. She looked slightly younger than Battler and Jessica, but her composure and mannerisms were beyond what anyone would have expected from a high schooler, almost as though she was a well-to-do family's daughter.
ちょっと待て
Wait a sec.
こいつは何者
Who
だ
the heck is this?
無能のあんたが
With
主
an
役ごま
incompetent
じゃ
like you as the main
ゲームが
character
さっぱり
piece,
進まな
the
いわ
game wouldn't go anywhere.
だから私自身を
That's why I've
駒として
placed
出さ
myself
せて
there
もら
as a
う
piece. See, it is Burncastle, I was right. I've placed myself there as a piece. Well, it's just a bit of a bonus.
いくらクローズド
Even
サ
if
ーク
a
ルだから
closed circle, it'd get boring to see the same crew every single time, right?
ふざけるな
Quit messing around.
ベアトのゲーム版
This
には
piece
存在
doesn't
しない
exist
お前
on Beato's game board.
俺もベアトと認
Beato
め
and
な
I
い
won't acknowledge it.
ベアトのゲーム
This
版
is
でしょ
Beato's game board, right?
ベアトが拒否
If
するって
Beato
なら
refuses,
考
then
えて
I'll
あげる
consider
よ
it.
ベアトの意見は
Then I'll consider it. What do you say, Beato? Beato was unable to answer. Lambda dealt a grin triumphantly.
ルールに
You want to try complaining about the rules and stepping down from the game? Isn't that a favorite move of you mystery people? If there's even a tiny element that goes against your expectations, you throw a tantrum and totally stop thinking.
安心なさい
Don't worry.
この駒について
I'll make a
は
detective
探
proclamation
偵宣
regarding
言を
this
出す
piece.
わ
探偵
A
宣言
detective proclamation?
フルドエリカ
I
は
proclaim that
探
Frudo
偵であ
Erika
る
is
こ
the
とを宣
detective.
言するわ
That doesn't mean anything.
探偵は犯
The
人では
detective isn't a culprit.
その証明に
No
は
proof is needed
い
to
かな
show
る
this.
証拠も必要としない早い話が
In short,
この
there's
子を一
absolutely
切
no
疑
need
う
to
必
suspect
要は
this
ない
girl.
ということよこれなら
Even if she
人間の
appears as
駒
a
と
human
して
piece
登
from
場
now
して
on,
も
you can
い
build
つも
theories
と
the
変わ
same
ら
as
ず
you
に
always
推理
did.
できるでしょ
Get it?
ノックス第7
That's
条
not
ね
7th, right?
探偵が
It
犯
is
人であ
forbidden
る
for the
ことを
detective to
禁
be
ず
the culprit.
原文には
There is an
例外
exception
条項
clause
探
in the
偵は
original,
犯
but for
人じ
this
ゃない
game,
と赤
the
で宣
detective
言して
isn't a
るから
culprit has been
例外は
proclaimed
考
in
え
red,
なくていいわ
so you don't need to consider the exception.
言葉遊びは
I
嫌い
hate
だか
word
ら
games, so I'll say this
私
in
も
red
赤に言っ
too.
てあげるフルドエリカは
Furudo
犯人では
Erika
ない
is not the culprit.
副将要件
Repeat it.
フルドエリカ
Furudo Erika had no
こ
influence
れ
on
まで
any
の
of
ベアト
Beato's
のゲーム
games
に影
before
響
now.
を与えない
いいわ
Sure,
応じ
no
る
problem.
フルドエリカは
Furudo Erika
これ
had
ま
no
での
influence
ベア
on
トの
any
ゲ
of
ームに
Beato's
影響
games
を与え
before
ない
now.
あくまでも
She's
今
nothing
回
more
初
than an
登場
extra
の
character
エキス
who
トラ
appears
よ
for the first time this round.
これまでの世界に
She
は
does
存
not
在し
exist
な
in
い
the
し
worlds before
影
this
響も
one,
与えない
nor does she influence them.
なら
So,
今
what
の
does
時
that
点
do
で
to
の
the
在
number
当
of
者
people
の
on
人
this
数は
island
どう
right
なんだ
now?
もちろん
Of course,
これま
it's
での
plus
人
one
数
from
に
the
プラス
previous
1
number.
してもらうわでも安心して
But don't worry,
フルドエリカが
Furudo
1人増え
Erika
ただ
only
け
increases it by one person.
それ以外の在
Besides
当者
her,
の人
the
数
number
は
of people on this
これ
island
ま
is
でのゲーム
exactly
と
the same
全
as
く
it
同
was
じ
in the previous games. At that time, the sound of people dashing down a corridor could be heard. It was Battler, George, and Jessica who had come from the guest house after being called here by Eva. They immediately spotted a guest they didn't recognize, and their eyes went wide.
うわ
Well,
ど
who
ど
are
ち
you?
ら様
Oh,
お客
I
様
guessed.
落ちる
She came by falling.
は
Huh?
落ちる落ち
Fall?
る
Fall?
源氏さん、
Genji-san.
こちらの方は
Who is this person?
お客様の
This is
フ
a
ルドエ
guest,
リカ様でござい
Furudo
ます
Erika-san. Furudo-sama.
フルド様
Furudo-sama.
こちらは
This is the daughter of the family, Jessica-sama, along with her cousins, George-sama and Battler-sama.
バトラー様で
Nice to meet you.
後ろ宮ジェシカです
Ushimiya Jessica.
はじめまして
Hello,
フルドエリカ
my
です
name is Furudo Erika.
よろしくお願いい
I
た
am
し
very
ます
pleased to meet you. Though Battler, George, and Jessica didn't have a clue what was going on and were utterly bewildered, they each introduced themselves.
好都合じゃない
Isn't that convenient?
これで人
This
数が
way,
はっき
the
り
number of
する
people is clear.
ゲストハウスの
The
枕
people in the
たち
guest
が
house
合
have
流
joined
し
up with the rest,
今
and
客
now
間に
all
は
of the pieces
金
except
蔵
for
以外
Kinzo,
のすべての
all of the
駒が
humans, have
人
gathered
間
in
が
the
揃っ
parlor.
た
そうなるの
Looks like it.
つまり
In
今
other words, the number of people in this parlor now is equal to the total number of people on this island.
ことになるわね
There were supposedly 18 people on the island, but since grandfather's actually dead, that became 17. And now, one piece of burn castles has been added. The number of humans on this island has returned to 18. I glance around at the humans in the parlor. The guest, Furudo Erika, and behind her, Kumasawa-san and Shannon-chan. Off to the side was Genji-san. Uncle Kraus and Aunt Natsuhi were welcoming the guest. Goda-san immediately started showing off, and Kanen-kun was being unsociable, wearing his usual blank expression. There was Dad and Kiri-san, Aunt Eva and Uncle Hideyoshi, Aunt Rosa and Maria, and Dr. Nanjo. And then, on either side of me, were George Aniki and Jessica. This is everyone, the true number of people on the island at the moment.
何しろ
Well,
僕たちは
all
全
of
員
us are
後ろ宮だから
Ushiro-miyas.
ね気兼ねなく
Please
下の名
don't
前で
feel
呼んでほしい
obligated to
ね
call us by our family name.
僕はジョージ
I'm George.
俺はバト
And
ラ
I'm Battler.
ーよろしくな
Nice to meet you.
ありがとうございます
Thank you very much, George-san.
バトラー
Battler
さん
san.
私のことも
I'd be
エ
pleased
リ
if
カ
you'd
と
call
呼ん
me
でもらえ
Erika.
ると嬉しいです
よろしく
Nice to meet you,
Erika-san.
Erika-san. It was decided that Erika would be welcomed like a guest, and allowed to borrow the bedroom next to the cousin room on the second floor of the guest house. In front of all the relatives, she had seemed dignified and a bit stiff. However, as she talked with George and Jessica, her expression began to soften gradually. Human and magical. Alright, I'll check it out in a sec. And so, the detective Furudo Erika was placed on the game board. I'm not quite sure what to make of her. Give me a second, I'll read through it. That's why they had that empty space up there. No, that one was for Beatrice. Or it used to be, I don't know. Furudo Erika fell from the pleasure boat Eternal Maid 2, mid-cruise in the waters near Rakanjima. On October 4th, 1986, she drifted to Rakanjima, and the Ushirimiya family welcomed her as a guest. She managed to drift to the island unharmed thanks to several miracles, including the fact that she was wearing a life jacket. Of course, miracles. And Furudo Erika, Burn Castle's double and servant, also a piece who is manifested in the human world. Because she is human, she cannot use magic and the like. However, she can appeal to Burn Castle on a higher level plane to obtain miracles and various authorities she can use. So it would probably be no exaggeration to call her a human capable of wielding the power of a witch. Through Burn Castle, she has been given the detective's authority while on the game board. Basically, she's a cheat piece, huh? Next. Therefore, even though she is an outsider to the Ushirimiya family, she possesses the right to demand full attention from everyone when speaking, the right to advocate proceedings, the right to investigate the crime scene before the police arrive, and many other special abilities. She gets pleasure from the process of solving riddles, but her greatest joy comes from using that victory to sneer at others. Yep, that's a cheat piece. Yeah. Yep. My character can do everything. And you can't say anything. And they're special and they get every privilege. Hey. This game is going to be weird. Alright. I'm surprised Jessica's old clothes suit her so well. Kumasawa made the decision on her own to use my lady's old clothes. Please forgive her. The clothes Erica wore were Jessica's old formal attire. Though the guest possessed a dignity that would put most adults to shame, her body was still physically similar to a middle schooler's. Jessica's old clothes fitted her perfectly. Perfectly. Not to worry. They match this guest perfectly. If she likes them, we might even let her keep them as a sign of friendship. This is gonna bug me the whole game, isn't it? Who cares if that pawn can also make bishop and knight moves as well, eh? Yeah. I'll stop and say this personally. Things like this really bug me when like a character is introduced and you're forced to like them and you're forced to be friendly with them. And like this, she just happens to drift there. Oh, here's Jessica's old clothes. She can have them perfectly as a sign of friendship that we know nothing about this person. Coming from a family that is planning to kill each other for whatever reason and has distrust of everybody, for them to suddenly trust this person with no reserve, that's gonna bug the hell out of me. But, no, soldier on. We'll get through it, I guess. Certainly. Thank you very much. Have you contacted the police and her family? Yes. They seem to have been quite distressed. By the way, in the context of the story, it all makes sense, by the way. Alright. I do see it as like a way to, okay, we're introducing the piece. No strings attached. This is just no strings attached, but they can do this. These are the rules they can follow by. Let everybody just accept it, and we can move on, instead of having an entire day of everybody questioning her motives. I realize that. Still bugs me, but I realize that. By the way, our guest really was involved in an accident, right? Yeah, that's... She herself said she fell from a boat as it was returning to port. Is there anything to back up that claim? I checked with the Coast Guard. It seems she fell from the rear of a pleasure boat, unnoticed by the others on board. We don't know the exact location she fell from, but it was probably somewhere near this island. Yeah. It was foolish to play on a boat with such a bad weather forecast. However, is it really conceivable that she nearly drowned in the nearby waters and drifted to this island? It is not impossible. Tales of drifters washing ashore exist in several of the islands around this area. I believe it likely that an accident occurred. We're in the middle of a typhoon. It would not be possible to land a boat anywhere on this island. Genji had already considered what she now suspected. Natsuhi probably suspected that this mysterious guest who had arrived during the already high-stress family conference might be the agent of some conspiracy. So, Genji had already checked to make sure that the accident was real, that Furudo Erika was her real name, and that there was nothing suspicious going on. I understand. My husband has ordered that she be politely entertained. Make sure that there are no blunders. However, you do understand, don't you? Yes. I won't let her anywhere near the family conference. After dinner, I will see that she retires to the guest house. Make sure they don't start trying to force us to let her meet father, or anything like that. Of course. I will keep that in mind. But yeah, this...
ほ
I have a real feeling I'm not going to like this episode. One of the other things I keep running in the back of my mind is all these rules, especially the red, overlap and they apply to multiple games. This game is now something else. If she is a real human and she exists and she's not an illusion, then this screws up with a hell of a lot of shit. I don't know. Anyway.
う
Oh,
フルドエリカ
Fudo Erika, was it?
この六軒島に
It's
来
rare
客
for
とは
guests
珍
to come here
し
to
そう
Rakunjima.
楽しませてくれそう
Doesn't
で
this
はな
look
いか
like it'll be interesting?
ベルンカステル教の駒でしょ
She's probably Lady Burncastle's piece.
人間のルールに
No,
従
she will follow the rules of humans. The player is a witch.
侮ること
We
はで
mustn't
きません
underestimate her.
問題ない
There is no problem.
仮にベルンカステル
Even
教
if she were
本
Lady
人であろう
Burncastle
とも
herself,
人
since she's
間
a
であ
human,
る以上
she's no match
我
for
々
us.
の敵で何しろガープ
After all, we have Gap with us.
人間はガープに
Humans
絶
certainly
対に
cannot
勝て
win
る
against Gap.
ありがと
Thanks.
うでも買いかぶりすぎは良く
Still,
ないわ
it's not a good idea to overestimate yourself.
魔女の定義
The definition of a witch doesn't only imply the ability to use magic.
ですが
True,
ジョーカーであ
a
り
joker and the eye of a typhoon.
それが魔女
That is what a witch is.
この六軒
I'm
島
the only one who gets to call
魔
herself
女
a
と名
witch
乗
on
って
this
よいは
rock
こ
and
の
Jima.
わらわ黄金の魔女
Only
と
I,
して無
the
限の
Golden
数
Witch and
ベア
Endless
トリ
Witch
ーチェのみで
Beatrice.
ベルンカステル教
Let's see how good Lady
エン
Burncastle's
ジェの
next
次な
piece
る
after
駒が
Angie
どの
is.
程度のものかじっくりと
I
観
intend to
覧
watch
させて
very
もらおうぜ
closely. Ay. Umineko no Nakukoro ni Chiru. Nocturne of the Truths and Illusions. I keep adding a the in there. I don't know why. But yeah, this is... You broke the rules. You added a person with a +1. That goes against the 17-person limit. That's cheating. Erika's seat was the lowest one in rank. In other words, it was at the inferior end of the table. Since Kinzo's seat at the high end of the table was empty, if you spun the whole thing around, it sort of looked like Erika was the host of this dinner. I wonder if that... yeah.
それでは皆様
And yeah, and making the special self-insert piece be incredibly special and everybody... that bugs me. Sorry. Right. Well then,
本
everyone,
日の晩餐を始
I would
め
like
さ
to
せてい
begin
ただきたい
tonight's
と思
dinner,
います
if I may. After Goda's announcement, dinner began with the applause that had become almost customary. It was finally the beginning of the dinner orchestra conducted by Toshiro Goda. Except for Krause's household, sitting at such a majestic dinner table was no everyday thing for these people by any means. However, they were all used to this event and acted as though it was completely normal. Once again, if anyone was to be surprised, it should have been Erika. And yet, she showed no signs of amazement at this dinner and acted with composure, blending in with everyone else. There wasn't even a sliver of the fear one might expect from someone who had wandered here like a lost puppy.
不思議な子ですね
What an odd
後
child.
ろ宮家の
She doesn't seem the least bit flustered by the Ushimi family's grandest dinner
何も
of the
取り
year.
乱さないとは
最近の子は肝が据わって
Kids these days have nerves of steel.
嫌いじゃないわ
Definitely not something I dislike.
フルドさんは
Does Furuto-san
こういう
used to
食事
feel
には
such as this
慣れ
one?
ているのですか大した落ち着き
She
よう
seems
だ
to be quite composed.
ほんま
No
や
kidding.
随分
She looks really
手慣れたもんや
experienced.
わしなんか
Heck,
未だに
I still get confused about which
次は
fork
ど
I'm
のフォークを
supposed to
使え
use
ばいい
next.
か混乱するこっちやったか
Was it
そ
this
れと
one
もこっ
or
ちやっ
this
た
one?
か
Without showing any confusion over the line of utensils in front of her, Erika gracefully ate her hors d'oeuvres. Hideyoshi had started joking around with her, gripping a fork in each hand. Of course, the president of a company in the food service industry like Hideyoshi obviously knew his table manners. However, thinking that Erika must be nervous over this dinner, he had intentionally spoken with a comedic tone in his voice.
外側から順に使う
You
だ
have,
けで
just have to
すし、
start on the outside and work your way in.
面倒だったら
If that's a
お
pain,
箸を頼
then
め
just
ばいい
ask
んで
for
す。
some chopsticks.
日本人なら
If you're
お箸です
Japanese, you've got to love chopsticks.
お箸はいいですよ。
Chopsticks are so
これ
great.
一膳あれ
Just
ば
one pair of those,
どん
and
な
you can
料
deal
理でも
with
対
any
処
kind
で
of
きま
food.
す。
As soon as she began talking about chopsticks, her eyes started glittering. The smile she now showed for the first time was far different from the dignity she displayed before. More like something you'd expect from someone her age.
カレーライスは
But even you would use a
さすが
spoon
にスプーンでしょ
for curry and rice, wouldn't you?
丼に盛ればい
Just
い
make
ん
it
です。
donburi bowl.
牛丼スプーンで
Is
食べ
there
る人い
anyone
ま
who
すか？
beats beef bowls with a spoon?
いませんよね。
Of course not.
日本人なら
For the
ダメで
Japanese, it's absolutely, positively, totally chopsticks. So, Koda-san,
すみませんが、
would you
お
mind
箸を
bringing
お
me
願い
some
します。
chopsticks?
私が
I want to
日
show
本人
everyone
と
how
し
a
て
true
恥ずかし
Japanese
くない
person
食
should
べ
eat,
方をご覧に
without
入
any
れてみせ
shame.
ましょう。ところで、次
By
の
the
料
way,
理は何ですか？
what are we eating next?
それが困ったこと
Unfortunately,
に
that would be
次
soup.
はスープでございまして。
As she imitated a shrugging gesture, Erica winked at everyone. Of course, no one was laughing at her. She obviously knew that soup came after hors d'oeuvres in a full-course meal. Furthermore, Erica had noticed both that she'd been performing too perfectly and creating a sense of tension, and that Hideyoshi had tried to break the ice because he thought she was so nervous. That's why she started acting like a little childish and light-hearted, acting out the part of a guest enjoying a harmonious dinner. Pretty soon, not only Kiri, but everyone else caught on. Though she was an uninvited guest, she was apparently worthy of participating in an Ushiromiya family dinner.
頭のいい子ね。
Smart kid.
本当にこの子。
Did she really just
偶
come
然の
by,
来客な
come
の。
here by coincidence?
実は
Don't tell me you
今日の
secretly
親族
called
会
your
議に
illegitimate
こっそり
child
呼
to
んだ
today's family
兄
conference,
さんの隠し子じ
Nii-san.
ゃないの。
賢く
It seems she even has the smarts to brighten the mood,
マナーも見事じゃない
and her manners are simply
あんな
wonderful.
子が娘だっ
It
た
wouldn't be
ら
bad at all to have this girl as a daughter.
それはひでえ
That's
ぜ
pretty cruel.
ジェシカちゃんの
Where
覚
does
醒
that
がなくなら
leave Jessica-chan?
ひどいわ。
That's
ル
mean,
ドルフ兄さん。
Rudolph Nii-san.
どうしたんだいジェシカ
What's
ちゃん
wrong, Jessica-chan?
頭痛かい
Headache?
私の評価がずんずん下がってる気
I
がす
get
る
the
ぜ。
feeling my reputation's taking a dive.
こりゃ本家の
Well,
令嬢と
if
して
you're a
負けら
daughter
れ
of the
ねえ
head
だろ
family, you'd better not let her beat you.
お前も日頃
Try using those
夏
table
おば
manners
さん
and
に仕込まれ
dignity
て
Aunt
テ
Natsuhi's
ーブ
always
ルマナー
training you
貫
with,
禄で
and
対
fight
抗して
back.
みろよ
I want to see. I want to see. I want to see table manners. Ooh,
ほらはしゃぐのはマナー違反だ
jumping
よ
around is bad manners.
ささジェシカちゃ
Come
ん
on, Jessica-chan.
お手本を見せて
Show
あ
us
げて
how it's done.
おお。
Sure.
もちろんだぜ。
Jessica straightened up so much it looked like someone had poked her back with a pole. She had good posture, but it somehow lacked elegance. She looked, well, kind of like a triangle ruler. She sat at attention with her gaze fixed straight ahead, tried to bring her food to her mouth despite this, and failed miserably. Dad, who was sitting next to her, suddenly realized that something was up. Hmm?
どうしたんだジェ
What's
シカちゃ
wrong,
ん
Jessica-chan?
腹でも痛えのか
Stomach ache? Jessica turned bright red. Sorry, I can't help myself. We laughed our heads off. Jessica protested, still bright red. Aunt Natsuhi scolded us for being too improper. Well, no matter how much we try to smooth it over, we are who we are. We couldn't pretend any longer. Still, that laugh really did help us to relax. We were so concerned about the guests getting nervous, we'd forgotten even more nervous about ourselves. Our chatter from the center of this long table spread to both ends, and ultimately the dinner went even more smoothly than usual. Because of course it would. With some delicious cheese and coffee, our peaceful meal came to an end. Goda won unanimous acclaim and was praised for his skill by all present. After a short period of harmony following the meal, it was decided that we would return to the guest house. Normally, dinner tended to have a very dark atmosphere about it, and the adults would often keep that mood as they moved straight on to the family conference. However, perhaps because this year's dinner had been oddly peaceful, everyone decided to take a break, the adults included. after eating, taking a bath, and relaxing while watching TV. I wonder if they'll gather again in the mansion with all this rain and resume the high-tension family conference of theirs. I'd rather not think about it. Apparently, Aunt Eva was getting really worked up, trying to convince the rest to start the family conference right away, but it didn't look like many people agreed with her. They would probably call it quits for the night. Since they had guest house duty, Goda-san and Kumasawa-san were chosen to guide us to the guest house. It's gotta be tough for Goda-san. Even after making and cleaning up such an extravagant dinner, he also has the late night shift at the guest house. I heard that Kumasawa-san, old as she was, would be going to sleep soon. It seems she was assigned a spare room.
Allow
me to guide everyone to the guest house. Erika-sama, a room has been prepared for you.
ありがとうございます。
Thank you very much.
体調はどうです？
Why not rest a
具合
bit?
が悪かったりは
Are
し
you
ません
sure
か
you feel okay?
ああ、そうだよな。
That's right.
すっかり忘
I
れて
totally
たけど
forgot, but you nearly drowned and floated here. Didn't you, Erika-chan?
今日は無理しねえで
You'd probably be better off taking it easy and going to bed early tonight.
全然平気で
I'm
す。
perfectly fine.
それよりも
On the
緊
contrary,
張と興奮
I'm
で
so nervous and excited that I doubt I could get any sleep. Oh. Then let's play. Let's all play together. Let's play cards. Maria latched onto her, giggling. This lack of restraint peculiar to youth was very much like Maria. However, we really should be concerned for Erika's physical condition now.
マリア、トランプは
Maria,
私たちと一緒
why
に
don't
遊
you
ぼう。
play cards with us?
エリカお姉ちゃんは
Erika
疲れてるんだ
One-chan
って
is
さ。
tired.
トランプも好きです
I
よ。
like cards too.
一息つきましたら
Please let me join
ぜ
you
ひ
after I've had a
ご
short
一緒
break.
させてください。
All right. Because of course you would.
あれはどちら様ですか？
I bet she solves the riddle of the epitaph. Who is that? As she passed us through the lobby of the entrance hall, Erika stopped walking. When we saw what she was looking at, the rest of us also stopped.
Ah,
that is the Golden Witch Beatrice-sama.
黄金の
The Golden
魔女。
Witch?
何やってん
What
だ
are you
ガキども
doing, brats?
さっさとゲス
Go
ト
on
ハウ
and
スへ
head
引き
back
上
to
げ
the
るぞ
guest house. Dad, Kiri-san, Aunt Eva, Uncle Hideyoshi, and Aunt Rosa all came over. The entire guest house party had gathered. However, Erika's gaze was captured by the portrait of the witch, and she simply stared at it for a while. Yeah. Supposedly, Dad has a stash of hidden gold worth 20 billion yen, and this epitaph shows you where that gold's hidden. Perhaps it was too early for them all to disperse into the individual rooms, because the relatives who had returned to the guest house all gathered on the first floor, continuing their chat. The topic was the witch's epitaph, which Erika had taken an interest in. Because of
魅
course
力
she would.
的な謎ですね。
It really is a fascinating
誰
riddle.
にでも見られるとこ
We
ろに
stuck it out in a
堂々と
place
張
where
り出し
anyone could see it,
私たちの知恵に
challenging our
挑戦する。
intelligence.
そういう挑戦大好きです。
I love that kind of challenge.
ひゅー
Oh,
エリカちゃんは案
you
外
seem
ノリがいい
surprisingly
な
interested, Erika-chan.
謎解きとか好きなのか
Do you like solving riddles or something?
面白そうじゃないです
Don't
か。
challenges like this seem interesting?
そういう挑
It
戦。
seems pretty clear
多分金
that
蔵さん
Kinzo-san
は
wants to
あの
use that
自分によ
epitaph
って
to choose his
跡継ぎ
successor.
を選ぼうというつもりに違いありませんね。
When she said that, the adults stopped moving and slowly turned to face Erika.
どうして
Why
そう
do you
思う
think
の
that? Aunt Eva spoke with a coaxing voice. Though, every now and then there had been whisperings among the relatives that whoever solved the epitaph riddle might be given the family inheritance. This had been no more than wistful thinking, since such a thing had never been specifically stated. And yet, though she had only read it once, this outsider had already reached that conclusion, because of course she would. How had she come to it? No, that's not the problem. If you solve the epitaph, you can become the next head. She wasn't trying to make it sound like wishful thinking, but an outright fact. So they closed in around Erica, asking why she was so sure. It's fairly common for an extremely rich person to relinquish his or her wealth to the solver of some sort of riddle. Furthermore, Kinzo-san didn't publish his epitaph in a newspaper, but displayed it in his mansion. That means the riddle is directed at the people in this mansion. You're right. Since it's inside this mansion, there's no way for someone who can't enter the mansion to solve it. So, that means grandfather's been challenging the people here. Good. Well thought. Just by the simple fact that the epitaph's inside the mansion, it's possible to figure out that much. At first, this Furuto Erika girl seemed to be the fairly silent type, but that apparently wasn't the case. As she grew excited by a challenge to a game of wits, she became much more talkative than I'd imagined. I see. Well, it does make sense that an epitaph inside a mansion would be there so the people in that mansion could read it. But can you really be so sure that the one who solves it will be given the headship too? If the treasure gained by solving the riddle were something small, I wouldn't even have considered that. That's right. The hidden gold is worth 20 billion. You might consider that gold itself to be the wealth of the Ushimiya family. Inheriting something like that would be almost the same as inheriting the Ushimiya family itself. In other words, this riddle of the gold's hiding place buried within the epitaph is nothing less than a way of selecting the de facto successor of the Ushimiya family. The idea that the one who solved the epitaph would be chosen as the successor had been passed around by some of the relatives for a while now. However, since it had never been specifically announced, it was nothing more than an optimistic dream. Thinking this, they decided to abandon all consideration of this point until the details were made clear. Erika had clearly declared that this uncertain point was, in fact, true. If one of the relatives had said it, people would have thought it to be merely an optimistic dream. However, when this was declared by a complete outsider, those words seemed even more credible. Everyone remained silent for a while, slowly considering what those words implied. Simply by the existence of the epitaph in that place, this level of reasoning is possible for Furuto Erika. Third person. What do you think, everyone? Sorry to butt in, but my dad's the successor. Finding the gold would be one thing, but that doesn't mean you get to be the head, right? Jessica thought the treasure hunting part of the epitaph was really fun. However, she couldn't help but let her expression grow bitter once they started talking about undermining her father's position. By using deductive reasoning based upon my theory, it seems likely that Kinzo-san doesn't want the successor, Kraus-san, to inherit that position too smoothly. Why is that? Becoming the head of the Ushimiya family, with all of the vast wealth it entails, would mean gaining a great deal of influence in a political sense. So, under normal circumstances, the succession should be overseen rigorously, without letting any element of chance creep into the equation. That's right. It happens a lot in those stories about Sengoku military commanders that my husband loves. When there are multiple candidates for the successor, it usually results in an internal squabble. That's right. That's why it's important to clearly specify a successor, so you can avoid any trouble. Sometimes, there's even a purge of all the competing successors. The Sengoku commander Hideyoshi admired, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, made his son-in-law Hidetsugu commit seppuku. But it was rumored that he might have done this to make Hideyori, who was his real son and born after Hidetsugu, his true heir. In other words, naming a successor was a way to make it generally known that a single, unique person would be acknowledged by everyone, and a way to remove any chance of another person becoming an opposing candidate. Gutto? That's exactly right. The only purpose for an epitaph like that would be to cast doubt on Kraus-san's position as the successor. In other words, if Kinzo-san wanted Kraus-san to become the head smoothly, he'd have no reason to go out of his way and display something so dangerous for all to see.
そうね
That's right.
チェス盤をひっくり
If you
返せ
spin the
ば
chessboard
確
around,
かにそう
you
ね
certainly could say that.
当主は継承
It
す
would
る
be
けれど
odd
も
if he handed over the
200
position
億
of
の
the
黄
head
金は
normally,
譲れない
but only handed over
解
the
けた
20
誰
billion
かに
yen
扮
in
する
gold to the
と
person
い
who
うのはお
solved
かし
the
な
riddle.
話だわ
Kinzo would pass on the title of family head, but he would only give up the 20 billion yen in gold to the person who solved the epitaph. You really couldn't call this passing of the headship in the truest sense.
そういうことです。
That's how it is.
以上の推理
By
に
this
より
theory, we are able to doubt whether Kinzo-san truly acknowledged
本当
Kraus-san
に
as
後
the
継者と
successor,
ただ碑文がそこに
simply
存
by
在
the
する
existence
だ
of
け
the
で
epitaph in that place.
古田エリカは
This level of
この程度
reasoning
の
is
推理が
possible
可
for
能です。
Fru to Erika.
いかがでしょう
What
か
do you think,
ジェシカさん
Jessica-san?
なんだよ
What
それ
the hell?
何が
How
推
do
理
you
だ
call that reasoning?
でたらめだ
That's bullshit. It's screwed up. Jessica let her emotions lay bare and glared at Erika. Erika, on the other hand, looked exceedingly calm with an expression that said, "Well, that's just the truth, right?" I see. It looks like table manners aren't the only way this girl is fitting for the Ushimiya family. Of course not. It seems she really does match the family, even when it'd be better if she didn't. Because of course she would.
まあま
Okay,
落ち着けよ
take it easy, Jessica.
あエリカも
And
それくらいに
Erika,
しろって
let's leave it at that for now.
まあその後継者
Well,
云々の話は置
we
いと
can
い
put
て
all
も
the
やな
successor stuff to the side for
いず
now.
れにせよ
Anyway,
お父さんから
there's
の
no doubt that
ビ
it's
ッグ
father's
クエ
big
スチョンや
question
という
for
の
us.
は間違いない200億や
It's
で
20 billion
マ
yen.
リアちゃん
Maria-chan,
もし見つけたら
what did
何
you
に
use it
使
for
う
if you found it?
お
Ooh.
黄
The
金鏡
Golden
は
Land
黄
isn't
金だけ
just
じゃない
gold.
もっと新鮮な
It's a
場所
sacred
なの
place. Uncle Hideyoshi kept trying to force himself to chuckle and improve the mood. Everyone else tried to play along, but Jessica's mood didn't get any better.
エリカちゃんも
So,
碑文の謎
Erika-chan,
に挑戦して
would
み
you
たくな
like
っ
to
た
have a
のかい
go at the epitaph riddle?
はい
Yes.
灰色の脳
My
細
little
胞
gray
が
cells
うず
are
きまく
itching
り
to
で
get
す
started.
ですので
I'd like to start solving as soon as
早
possible.
速始めたいと思います
George Aniki smoothly turned the conversation around. Just like the time she'd made everyone laugh in the dining hall, Erika looked about with gleeful eyes and jumped at the chance. I like it. Well, since Erika seems so interested, let's all try and solve it together, just like last year. Last year?
私コーヒー入れるわ
I'll make some coffee.
欲しい人は手を挙げ
Raise
て
your hand if you want some.
マリアはダメよ
Not for you, Maria.
眠れなくなっちゃうで
You
しょ
won't be able to sleep. Oh, oh.
マリアもブ
I
ラッ
want to
ク
drink black coffee.
ワクワクしません
Don't they get you excited?
こういう謎
Riddles like this?
私は大
I
好
love
きです
them. Erika said that and smiled. Though she must have known that she ticked Jessica off and made the atmosphere sour, she just smiled nonchalantly.
別に
See,
10月
without
5日
even
の
waiting
事
for
件
the
を待
crime
た
on
なくて
October
も
5th,
解
there's
け
a
る
riddle
謎
you
は
can
ある
solve.
ってわけ
そりゃ俺も
I've tried to
何度か
solve it
挑んだ
many times myself,
だが
but
でもさっぱり
you
わから
didn't
な
have
か
a
った
clue,
か
so you gave up and
ら
stopped
投げ出して
thinking.
考えるのをやめたでしょ
Right. It pissed me off, but I don't have a good counter for that. After all, I don't get the epitaph at all. I don't even know what the beloved hometown means, much less the parts about the Sweetfish River and the key. Thinking that a few more hints would show up if I waited, I kept on waiting, and just stopped thinking.
あなたなりの答えは
Have you figured out an answer of your own?
私が今から解いちゃ
Because
う
I'm
から
about to solve it. Because of course you would.
No.
What?
何
ベルンはね
This is where
ここで
Burns
碑
solved
文
the
の
riddle
謎を
of
解
the
いちゃったの
epitaph.
よさすが
I'd
奇跡
expect
の
no
魔
less
女
from the Witch of Miracles.
解ける謎であ
If
る
a
なら
riddle is solvable,
難易度
she
に
can
関
solve
係
it
な
without
く
fail,
必ず解ける
regardless of the difficulty. Because of course she could.
今度は解くの
How
に
many
何
years
年
did it
か
take
か
to
ったの
solve this one?
失敬ね。
That's rude.
かけらをほ
I
ん
only
の数
finished to a
百
few
個ほど
hundred
漁っ
fragments.
ただけじゃない。
やっぱり恐ろしい
You really are terrifying.
それは
You aren't going to cheat by suddenly saying the answer in red or something like that, right?
安心なさい。
Don't worry.
あなたと同じ
Just like you,
プレ
I
イヤ
follow
ーと
the
しての
rules
ル
as
ー
a
ルに
player.
のっとってよ。じゃ
Well,
あ、始めよう
shall we
かしら
begin?
ここじゃ狭いわ。
It's cramped here.
海の上で
Why don't we
話し
talk
ましょ
over
う
the sea?
オッケ
Okay.
ー酔わないでね
Don't get
バ
queasy,
カラ
battler.
海って
What do you mean,
何の
the
話
sea?
だあ
I thought the whole world had turned pitch black, and the next moment I was struck by a strange floating sensation. This must be what it feels like to suddenly have the floor drop from under you, sending you into a bottomless pit. When I looked, I saw that the two witches and I had been thrown into a pitch-black universe. In this space, every direction was covered in an endless darkness, and it felt like a limitless expanse filled with countless glittering objects. Some people might have likened it to the depths of an ocean where innumerable sparkling fragments drifted. What?
酔うなと言ったのに
Didn't she tell you not to get queasy?
重力の
If
概
you
念
want
も
the
欲しい
concept
な
of
ら
gravity, just create it
自分
yourself,
で生み出しなさい
okay?
ほら
Come on,
落ち着
calm
いて
down and look at
私た
us.
ちを見ほら
Come on,
私たちは
don't we
平
look
気そう
like we're
にして
just
るでしょ
fine?
足元に大地
Believe
が
that
あって
your feet are on the ground,
重力
and
に
that
支
you're being
配されてい
controlled
る
by
と信じ
gravity.
なさいそうすれば
If you do
安定
that,
できる
you'll
から
find your equilibrium. Yes, the two witches are standing normally, as if their feet were planted on transparent pieces of glass. I'm the only one floating about like someone in a rapidly plummeting elevator. When I saw that they were doing just fine, I started calming down, figuring that there was no need to be scared. Then, just as Lambda Delta said, I gritted my teeth and kept telling myself that there was a place to stand here, and that I had to stay calm.
おおお
お上手お上手
Very good, very good.
あんたの名前は
What's your name? Ushirimiya Battler.
他の誰に
Who else do I look like?
オッケ
Okay.
ー自分の意
You
思
mustn't lose your will,
感情
emotions,
姿
or
や
form.
形を決して喪失してはここは海なんだか
After
ら
all,
ね
this is the ocean.
意味を喪失
If
す
you
れば
lose your purpose,
永
you'll
遠の
fall
深淵
into the
に
depths
落ちて
of
海の
eternity
藻
and
く
become
ず
a
よ
scrap of ocean seaweed.
気をつけなさい
Be careful. I don't get what Lambda Delta is saying, but I should calm down for the time being. It seems that I regain my equilibrium the more I calm down. Gradually, that weird floating feeling, like I was falling forever, began to disappear. It still felt strange, like trying to stand up straight at the bottom of a deep pool, but it was much better than before. Then, let's begin. What are we beginning?
碑文の謎を解くた
I'll
め
weave
は
together some fragments for solving the riddle of the epitaph. Burncastle opened both of her hands. Then, like a planetarium, all of the fragments throughout this empty space began to spin, leaving tails behind them. The expression planetarium might have been surprisingly fitting. Multiple fragments were tied together by gold lines, and what looked like constellations zoomed by us rapidly, one after another. It felt almost as though we were dashing through space at an incredible speed, like driving through the snow. Then, with tails of light drifting behind them, several brightly glowing fragments rolled around Burncastle. It looked almost like she'd created her own solar system, with her as the sun. That solar system surrounding Burncastle grew to a radius large enough to swallow us up. And every once in a while, one of those satellite fragments zoomed right past me. When those fragments passed by me, it felt as though some kind of memory welled up inside me. So I sensed it. These fragments are probably like a crystallization of memories. They aren't memories.
世界のかけ
They're
ら
fragments of worlds.
まあ
Well, I guess they might feel like
あんたの記
memories to
憶のよう
you.
に感じられるだろうけどね。
では始めるわ。
Then let's begin.
まずは
Let's
こ
start
の
with this
かけらか
fragment.
ら。
One of the satellites in the solar system was slowly sucked into an inward trajectory, with Berncastle at the center. After drawing a spiral and approaching her, it settled down on the palm of Berncastle's outstretched hand. Then, it glittered brightly, painting over the world with pure white. The beloved hometown definitely won't betray our expectations. The only past father held dear happened during his childhood years.
覚えてるぜ。
I remember that.
これは
This is from the third game, when Aunt Eva was just about to solve the riddle of the epitaph. I was thinking it over with this witch inside her, or whatever.
そうよ。
That's right.
そしてこの考察
And from these thoughts, she made her way to the correct answer.
つまり
In other words,
正解へ
this fragment shows a vital hint for reaching the truth.
かけらということつまり
That means that this theory is not mistaken.
つまり
So, you're saying we should assume this beloved hometown isn't a metaphor or anything like that,
そのまま
but the place
じい
grandfather
さま
actually
が少
spent
年時
his
代を
youth?
過ごした故郷と読み取っていい。
そういうこと
That's right.
そして少なくともそれ
And
は
at
小
the very
田原
least,
ではない
it isn't Odawara.
生まれは
Odawara
確かに
is
小田
definitely
原
where
だ
he
けど
was born,
それについて
but I
は
don't think
多分
that's the
兄
hometown
弟
he
たちは
loved.
全員
I
同じ
imagine
場
all
所
of
で
his
認
siblings
識
have
し
the
てる
same
よ
place in mind.
そうね
Right.
多分小田原
This
じゃない
probably isn't Odawara.
聞いた話で
From
は
what I've heard,
とても楽
he
し
had
い
a very
少
fun
年時代
time
だ
in
った
his
そうよ
youth. As a youth.
そうだ
That's right.
な。エヴァおばさんたち兄弟
Aunt Eva and her siblings said it wasn't
小田原であることを
Odawara.
否定していた。いや、
And,
それどころ
not only that,
み
it
んなは
looks like
じいさま
everyone guessed where grandfather's hometown
察して
was.
いるようだった。
そう
Right.
そして意地悪
And
な
annoyingly, the actual location isn't spoken of in any of the fragments.
どのかけらに語っていない
そりゃ
Oh,
そうでし
duh.
ょ。それを教え
If
て
I
あげ
told you
た
that,
から
there'd be too many
ヒント
hints.
つけちゃうよ。難易度の
If
高
it
い
wasn't a
のそ
hard
れなき
riddle,
ゃ
there'd be no
意味が
point
ない
to
んだ
it.
から。あらいけない。
Uh-oh.
これもヒント
That's a
にな
hint
っちゃう
too.
わね。
一体
Just, where is this hometown of grandfather's?
それがわからな
We
い。
can't even start if we don't know that.
始まらないから思考を
You
停
mean
止した
you
わけ
couldn't start, so you stopped thinking?
住み得た場所である
Since it had to be a place where
そ
he
れ
could
は
have
有
lived,
限の範囲なん
the
だ
number of possibilities is limited.
まあ
Well,
ここが
this
一
is the
番辛
toughest
いとこ
part.
ろなんだけれど
お前は確か
You were the witch who could certainly
解け
solve
る
any
謎であ
riddle
る
that
限
can be
り
solved,
絶対に
weren't
解
you?
ける魔女だったな。つまりお前
So,
は
you took those
そ
limited
の有限の
possibilities,
範囲内、つまり地球
in
上
other
の
words,
すべて、
everywhere on the earth,
じいさまの
and
住んで
considered
そうな
every
土地を
single
すべ
piece
て
of
想
land
定
that
して考
grandfather
え
might have lived on?
そうしてもいいけれ
That
ど
would work too.
それ
But
じゃ
that
時
way,
間が
no
いくら
amount
あ
of
っても
time
足
would
り
be
ない
enough.
だからさらに
So,
ヒント
I
を
needed to
試して
take some more hints into
答えを絞る
consideration to bring out the answer.
自分で言っ
Didn't
た
you
じ
say
ゃ
it
ん
yourself?
水の
You
流
said
れ
it
る
didn't have to be a
川
river
と
with water flowing down it.
あゆという言
If
葉
the
が
word sweetfish is too complicated, why not forget it?
そんなに忘れてしまえば川で
Think of a
考える
river.
の川で
A river.
家系図という
Linking it
連
with
想
a
は
family
悪く
tree
ないの
wasn't a bad idea.
その要領
Try
で
thinking
川
about
か
how
ら
to
連
link a
想する
river
ものを
with something
他
else
にも
along
考
those
えてみ
lines.
て故郷を貫
A
く
sweetfish
愛
river
の川
running through the hometown.
しかしその川
However,
は
this river
本当
isn't
の意
truly
味
a
での
river.
川ではエヴァは
Eva
川
thought
か
of
ら
something
連想
else,
できる他のものを考
something that could be
えた
linked with a river.
そうだな。
Sure,
しかし、
but if it
川じゃ
isn't
な
a
いの
river,
か
then why
ア
the
ユって
sweetfish?
何なんだ。
考えなさい
Think,
故郷を
a
貫
river
く
that runs through the
川
hometown,
でも水の
but
流
it
れ
isn't
る
a
川
river
じゃ
with
ない
water running down it.
川のようにも例え
Something
ら
that
れ
can be
る
likened
も
to
の
a river. A road.
懐かしき
Behold the sweetfish river running through the beloved hometown.
エヴァは
Eva
故
knew
郷
where the
がどこか
hometown
分かっ
was,
てたから
so she could
あ
forget
ると
about
い
the
うヒントを
sweetfish
切り
hint.
捨てて考えたけど故郷を知らない
However,
私た
since
ち
we
に
don't know
は
where it is,
ヒントにな
this
り
could be
得
a
るかも
hint
し
for
れ
us.
ないわ
I worried too much about the Sweetfish River. The Sweetfish part didn't really matter that much at all, did it? That isn't true. It was an excellent hint, wasn't it? Well, of course, maybe there was no need for it to be Sweetfish. What are these Sweetfish? If the river isn't a literal river, then of course, Sweetfish probably doesn't mean the kind of fish that swims. Yeah. And on top of that, Rosa tossed it aside, saying that Sweetfish weren't that significant. On the other hand, Eva said it wasn't important for them to be Sweetfish, but that was still an excellent hint. In other words, the Sweetfish is a key to make you think of something else. If that something is a different word, but a word that Sweetfish makes you think of, then Eva's line about how it probably didn't have to be Sweetfish makes sense. From these thoughts, Aunt Eva formed the same theory, went to the library, looked through some books, and verified that she was right. In short, Aunt Eva formed some theory about the true nature of the Sweetfish River running through a hometown. Then, she opened a certain book to determine whether that theory was correct or not. In other words, this theory was something that could be verified through some kind of book. Also, after she figured out what the Sweetfish River was, she figured out the rest of the riddle very quickly. Good thinking. The epitaph continues on, saying, "As you travel down the river, you will see a village." At that point in time, Eva hadn't yet solved the 3 lines starting with this one. What is this village? What does it mean? Do you find one if you go down the river? Right before my eyes, the pieces that I hadn't been able to understand at all began to snap into place, all by themselves. I couldn't even remember to close my open mouth. My throat grew completely dry. Is it really okay for this to be the answer? Really? Licorices. Really? So, if we figure out what the Sweetfish River running through the hometown is, that leads us directly to understanding the, as you travel down the river, you will see a village and stuff, and then we get to the key to the Golden Land. Correct. And we know that because even Eva didn't know what the village meant until she checked the book. Damn it. Just what is this book? But this isn't 6 characters at all. I'm absolutely sure this is the answer, but this doesn't reach 6 characters at all. Did you stop thinking again? In that case, think of a way you could read it with 6 characters. If you can't think of one, then research it. There has to be an answer. You must not doubt that. Oh, is believing in that too much for you? If only you just cry yourself to sleep, and then you can just give up and die. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh. 6 characters. I found it. This is the key to the Golden Land. Then, Eva found the key to the Golden Land. Yeah, and this key was some kind of word, number, or string of characters, 6 characters long. That's it. If we know the key's true identity has 6 characters, the meaning of the first Twilight changes drastically. On the first Twilight, offer the 6 chosen by the key as sacrifices. The 6 chosen by the key. 6 characters. In other words, it means to sacrifice the 6 characters chosen by the key on the first Twilight. This key indicates a certain group of 6 people. No. Would you say it indicates a certain group of 6 things? If this doesn't mean a literal command to offer sacrifices, for example, it could be an anagram. An anagram?
文字遊
Do
び
you
の
mean
ことかな
playing with letters? Yes, Kiri-san has been thinking that way ever since that moment.
第二の番
On the second
残
twilight,
されし者
there are
は
those who remain,
ということは
which means that, at the very least, that something has a limited number of characters.
そこから6
You
文字
could
を
read
抜
it
い
like
て
it's telling you to
残った文
continue
字で
with the
話
remaining
を
characters
進めろ
after the
と読み解けるわ
first 6 characters are removed. I can get that part, but the starting point, you don't know that.
第一の番に
In other words, on the first twilight, we take a list of characters that's longer than 6,
鍵である6
kill
文
the
字を
6 that are
殺
the
し
key,
残った
and
文字
then
で
do
どうに
something
か
with
し
the
ろという
characters
意味
that
だ
remain.
そういうこと
That's right.
ただ当
But,
時の切り
like
絵
Kiri
の
said,
ならば
what should we
何か
kill
ら
the
6
characters
文字を
from?
殺せばいいその殺す
We don't know
大元
this
の文字
longer
列や
string of characters that we're supposed to be killing from. On the first twilight, kill the 6 characters that are the key. On the first twilight,
つま
in other words,
り第一の
by the time we reach the first twilight,
何か
some string
文
of
字列が
characters
存在
already
するという
exists.
ことなのかしかし
That might be a set of
第
Japanese
一の
characters,
じゃ他の読み方か
but knowing grandfather's taste, could it be something in English?
じいさま風に
The
英語で
first
読む
twilight has more than 6 characters,
ファースト
even though the Japanese phrase has just 4.
グッ
Good.
バトラさんのその
That
考
idea of
え
yours isn't bad, Battler-san.
鍵の選びし
We
6
can
人
interpret
の
the
生
6
贄を
sacrifices chosen by the key as a string of 6 characters.
柔軟な発想だと
I
思い
think
ます
it's a very clever concept.
鍵が
That way, the key doesn't necessarily have to be key-shaped.
アナグラムの可能性は
I've
私も
also
考えて
considered the possibility that it's an anagram.
そういや以
Come
前
to
そ
think
んな
of
こ
it,
とを言ってたな
you did say something like that
し
before,
かしだとしたら
but in that
何
case,
から6文字を抜く
where do we take the 6 characters out from?
そうね
That's right.
6文字も
Since
抜く
we're
以
talking
上
6
それ以
characters
上の
out,
文字数
it
だわ
must be at least 6 characters long.
第一の
We
番
need to
を
read
6文字以上にどう読み解けばいい
in
のか
some
し
way
ら
that gives it more than 6 characters.
お父様のセン
If
ス
we
なら
follow
やっ
father's
ぱ
sensibilities,
り英語なのかし
I
ら
guess it probably is English after all.
行き詰まるようなら
If
先
it
に
looks like we're getting
第
stuck,
二の番に進
why don't
み
we move on to the
ヒントを
second
探
twilight
してみま
and
しょ
look
う
for hints?
残されし者は
Those
寄
who
り添う
remain
二
shall
人を
tear
引き
apart
裂
the
き
two who are close.
残されし
We can
者は
probably think of those who
6文字を
remain
抜いた
as
後に
the
残
remaining
った文字
characters after the
だと
first
考
6 have
えてよ
been
いでしょ
taken
う
out.
となると
In that case,
寄
what
り
does
添
it
う
mean by
二
two
文字と
characters
は
that are close?
どういう意味になるんだろ
I see.
そうかわかったぜ
I get it. So that's what this is
つま
about.
りこういうことだ
The 4 and then you complicate it later. For example, let's take the following list of 9 characters. Actually, give me a second. It's the second one. For example, let's take the following list of 9 characters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then, let's say that the 6 characters offered as sacrifices are 1, 3, 6, 7, 8, and 9. In this case, we erase the aforementioned 6 characters from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and get 2, 4, 5.
2と4と
So
5が
2,
残
4, and 5 are left.
るそれでどうなる
So what? Oh,
4と
4 and 5 are
寄り
close.
添ってる
そう
Yeah,
かわかった
I get
ね
it.
つまり寄り
So
添
the
いし
two who are
二人
close
っていう
are
のは
2, 4, 5.
そうさ
Yep.
2と4は
There's
間
a
が空
gap
いている
between 2 and 4,
4
but
と
4
5
and
は隣り合
5 are
って
right next to each other.
寄り添いし2人だ
They're the two who are close.
グッ
Good.
とお見事です
Well done,
バトラさん
Battler-san.
引き裂くという意
We
味は
can't tell whether
4と5
tear
も潰
apart
せという
means
意
to
味
crush
なの
4
か
and 5,
4と5の
or to
間
put
を
a
開
gap
けと
between
言っ
them.
ているのかは分
But
か
I
りか
think
ね
that's
ま
a
す
good
が
observation.
その着眼は良いと思います
なら第
Then
3の番の
what do you think about the
残され
third
し者
twilight?
は誉れ
Those
高き
who
我
remain
が名を
shall
称えよ
praise
って
my
のは
noble
何
name.
だと思う
文字遊びである可
Since
能
there's a
性
good
が
chance
高
that
い
we're
以
playing
上
with letters,
それもまた
this might be the
言
same
葉遊び
thing.
の可能性があります残された文字は
The characters that remain shall praise my noble name.
難しいね。
They spell things out
どう
and
いう意
stuff.
味だろ
What could it mean?
どなたか
Does
わかる
anyone
方
know?
は私は多分
I think I
わか
do.
っちゃいました
Huh?
何教
What
え
is
な
it?
さいよ
Tell me.
これもアナグラム
Is this also an anagram?
またしても
Once again, good.
バトラさんは
Battler-san,
なかなか
you're a
発
pretty
想が
flexible
柔軟で
thinker.
す
アナグラムって
By
文字遊び
anagram,
って意味だよ
you
ね。
mean playing with letters, right?
ということは
That means,
つまり
in other
残っ
words,
た文字を
maybe
入
you
れ
can
替え
make
る
some
と
kind of word by
何か
changing the
の
order
単語
of
が
the
できる
remaining
という意味
letters.
じゃないかしら
だな
Yeah,
とすると
if so, I might be getting
ちょ
ahead
いと
myself with
勇み
this
足の
theory,
仮説だが俺は
but maybe the original list of characters that the first Twilight removed from is
11
11
文字じゃない
characters
か
long.
と想定する
またしても
Well
お見
done
事
again.
私も同じ見
I
解
reached
で
the
した
same conclusion.
どうしてよ
Why is that?
どうして11文字
Why
な
do
ん
you
て
think
言え
there
る
are
んや
11 characters?
生贄を一人
We
殺
think
すという
killing
のは
a single
文
sacrifice
字を一
means
文字
crushing
潰す
a
ことを
single
意味する
character.
と思われます第二の番の
If we
引き
interpret
裂
the
きを
terror part
と
of the
りあえ
second
ず
Twilight to
2
mean 文字
adding
adding a
の間
gap
を開
between
け
two
という意味
characters,
で解釈した場合
then there
な
are
ら
11 characters total.
この引き裂けが
If
2
terror
文字を
part
潰せ
means
と
to
いう
crush
意味
those
な
two
ら
characters,
13文字
then
に
we
な
can
ると
assume that
想
there are
定されま
13
す
characters.
なぜなら
After all,
その後の
from
第
the
4
fourth
の番
Twilight
から
to the eighth
第
Twilight,
8の
the
番に
word
かけ
kill appears
5回
5
殺
times.
せという記述が出るかそして
And then, on the ninth Twilight, it's written that none will be
誰も
left
生き残れ
alive.
ないと書かれています
魔女が蘇る
If we ignore the part about the witch reviving for now,
これは
I figured that after crushing the first 6, separating the characters that are close, and then crushing 5 more of them,
ぴったり文字が
there
な
should
く
be
な
no
るという意味
characters
ではない
left.
かと考えたんだ
That makes 6 plus 5, or 11 characters. If tearing apart the two who are close in the second Twilight means to kill both of them, that makes 6 plus 2 plus 5, or 13 characters. There's a chance the word symbolizing the first Twilight has 11 or 13 characters. Wait, it couldn't be that easy, could it?
実にお見事です
Wonderfully done.
私とまさ
That's
に
the
同
exact
じ
same
推理
theory I thought of.
バトラさんもどう
It
やら
looks like you were gifted with excellent little gray cells
灰
just
色
like
の脳
me,
細胞に恵
Battler-san.
まれているようですね
よせやい
Quit it.
適当だぜ
Just doing what comes
適当
naturally.
おいおいなんだよこれ
Hey, what the
コ
hell?
マの俺は
The piece me's pretty damn
随分と頭が
smart.
切れおかげで俺の推理
There's no room
出番
left for me to make theories.
ああごめん
I
な
had a
さい
spike there. Oh, sorry about that.
バトラはこの時
You weren't
不在だ
around
っ
at
た
this
から
point, so I just
私の
controlled
方
your
で
piece
勝手
for
に
you.
本気れ者っぽくていいで
Isn't
し
it
ょ
nice how smart I made you look?
あんたはベル
You look smarter when Burns playing you.
プレイヤーは降りて
Why not step down as a player and concentrate on being a piece instead? I joined in on this game partway through, well after the first murders occurred on October 5th. That means the piece called me was controlled by the player, Burncastle. So, I guess that means it's possible for Burncastle's reasoning to be announced through my mouth. The game I'm watching now is nothing more than a replay of a part that's already ended. However, that's probably good enough for now. After all, this Burncastle-sama is going out of her way to solve the epitaph for me. I'll watch closely for now. And I'll try to find out what it means. Lambda Delta let it slip herself just a second ago.
そりゃそうでし
Well,
ょ
duh.
それを教え
If
て
I
あげ
told
ちゃ
you
ったら
that, there'd be too
ヒント
many
が過ぎ
hints.
ちゃうわ難易度の高い
If it wasn't a hard riddle,
意味が
there'd be
ない
no
んだから
point to it.
あらいけない
Uh-oh.
これも
That's
ヒ
a
ント
hint
になっ
too.
ちゃうわね
This theory about grandfather creating the epitaph in order to choose a successor isn't bad at all. Eric and Burncastle's logic is extremely reasonable. But that's only if we assume grandfather was the one to create it. he was probably alive at the time the epitaph was displayed. But of course, grandfather's already dead by 1986. And in the games up until now, Beatrice threatened us repeatedly with letters, saying that the only way to survive was to solve the epitaph, and trying to force us to solve the riddle. In other words, it was Beatrice's intention, her hope, that we would try solving the riddle of the epitaph. The epitaph's so confusing that, in most cases, the relatives never seriously tried solving it until the threatening letters started to arrive. That's why Beatrice fired the starting pistol that made us take a go at it. Why is Beatrice carrying out grandfather's will after his death? Like the theory proposed in the first game, is Beatrice really grandfather's confidant? Who's following his orders even after his death and trying to select the successor with the riddle of the epitaph in grandfather's stead? If she did that, it would mean Beatrice really was Kinzo's trusted underling, the family alchemist she claimed to be in that letter. After grandfather's death, Beatrice managed the 10 tons of gold and took the title of alchemist. She was entrusted with the epitaph's riddle, and without ever embezzling the gold, she waited for a human fitting to be the successor to appear and solve it. And if that human didn't appear within a set time limit, would that be game over? Certainly, Aunt Eva, who solved the riddle in the third game, became the only survivor and, automatically, the final head of the Ishimiya family, inheriting everything. Up until now, no one has ever survived past October 5th, except Aunt Eva, the one who solved the epitaph. That was the only case where Beatrice let anyone survive. Is Beatrice's loyalty to grandfather the thing that drove her? Was she so loyal that she faithfully carried out some terrible order, to kill everyone if the epitaph wasn't solved? I must not stop thinking. Don't stop thinking. Don't just think of the riddle itself. Think about why it's significant. Why is Beatrice telling us to solve this epitaph? Why is she making us solve such a confusing epitaph? If Beatrice makes us try and solve this epitaph, we have no real chance of solving. And by some lucky chance, a miracle occurs and someone is able to solve it. What significance would that have to her? I don't know. What such a miracle would be worth to Beato. That'll be a good spot to stop at. And I figured about as much before that it was some wordplay, but I couldn't ever figure out what that first word was. And the way they're talking, it sounds like his hometown doesn't actually matter. Especially since it's never said. It may just reference a starting point. I don't know. But for now, that'll be it for today. Thank you for joining me on my interesting little adventure here. We'll see where we get to next time. Maybe we can work on the riddle and test our theories next time. But for now, that'll be it for today. I'm gonna go eat some breakfast and some other stuff. I don't know. Maybe try a little harder with the riddle. It's a weird one. I've got a few theories, but they don't match up. Math just isn't quite right. Anywho, thanks for watching, and see you all later. Have a good one, everybody.